When you change the way you see the world you see changes. When you look at white light through a prism, that light you see changes. And when you look at the world through the prism of EO, the world you see will change. The Entrepreneurs Organization, we are all about engaging leading entrepreneurs from everywhere on this planet who want to learn and leading entrepreneurs who want to grow. If you know anything about me, you know that I believe that EO is about building better entrepreneurs. Better entrepreneurs in their families, better entrepreneurs in their businesses, and better entrepreneurs in their communities. About 3 years ago, I got a call from Sanjay Kapoor in India, inviting me to join EO's global board for a 3-year commitment, with that last year being the global chairman. At the time, I had a 3-year-old son, a 1-year-old son, and another son on the way. So I went back to talk about this with my wife, Carol. After long deliberations, long negotiations, and lots of concessions on my part, she allowed me to accept the invitation. Let me put this in perspective for you, a little bit about myself. I'm from Buffalo, New York. Yeah. Don't remind me. I grew up in a very Italian family. And when I went to elementary school, my teachers were nuns. My world was pretty small. I eventually moved to California. But up until the time that I got that call from Sanjay, I had not traveled outside of North America. And I knew my world was about to change. You see, EO at that time was a membership that was, the majority of the membership was based in the United States. But I knew by the time I was chairman, the majority of the membership would be outside the United States. And I knew that as the chairman of the organization, the most important thing that I had to do was be visible. But I needed to be visible outside the United States. So for the last year and a half to 2, I've spent time with entrepreneurs, our members, in North America, South America, Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, Australia, India, the Middle East, Europe, and Africa. And I've learned a couple of things about our members. Number one, we speak our own language. Before my first trip, someone on staff gave me a book called Behave Yourself. I think I was the only chairman that had ever received that book. I don't know why. So I was pretty buttoned up whenever I went into a country. I was ready to have a conversation. I knew what to say, what not to say, how to act, and so on and so forth. But a funny thing happened within 60 seconds of talking to a member in any country that I was in. I realized they didn't read the book. All walls were broken down. We were able to just immediately get down to business and start conversing in a way that we both understood. No holds barred. It was like we had this instant intimacy. Dave Galbinski coined the term instamacy a few years ago, and that's what it felt like no matter where I went. We were able to immediately connect and start having a conversation. That's the first thing. The second thing I realized about our members, we are all looking for opportunities. And when we find those opportunities, we do exactly what we do best. We pounce on them. We leverage scarce resources. We focus on strategy, execution, people. We commit, and I wish Magic was here, to winning. And when we win, we create jobs. And when we create jobs, we raise the standard of living on the planet. That's what the world needs. That's what entrepreneurs do. And nobody does that better than an EOer. Yeah. Matt Stewart was very good, wasn't he, yesterday? But he was totally wrong. We didn't get rid of bars when I was chairman. We actually added them. I don't know what happened today. But as long as he talked about a tour bus, the EO tour bus, I'm going to take you on the EO tour bus. Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, the EO College, 140 members from over 20 countries converged on Jeddah for that college. It was pretty unbelievable. The most unbelievable part was when Aramco, the Saudi national oil company, flew their private jet to fly all 140 of us deep into the desert. When I say deep, I mean 400 miles away from anything. I mean sand dunes over 100 feet tall. They'd found oil, and they built a mini city there that can hold up to 1,000 people. They spent $1.5 billion to build it. And it only took them 90 days to get their money back. But that's not the interesting part. Although it was for us, it's ridiculous. Nice return. The government understood something in Saudi. They sat there and presented to us the opportunities that are available to entrepreneurs in their country. And not only did they present the opportunities, they invited us to take advantage of them. And then proceeded to say, we'll help you start those businesses. They understood the power of the entrepreneur. They knew they needed the entrepreneur in that emerging market. South Korea. Matt Stewart and I actually had the luxury of spending 16 hours in Seoul with members. And we went to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. Two countries technically still at war. We stood in South Korea on the platform looking out into North Korea, looking out into the fake city that they'd built. We went deep into the tunnels that North Korea had secretly dug into South Korea. Quite a perspective. And the world that I saw was changing. The UAE, United Arab Emirates, spent time in Dubai. Let me tell you what I saw in Dubai. An unfinished city. Over 200 buildings. Literally, you can count them. Over 200 buildings with at least 40 stories abandoned, not finished. Most of our members in the UAE, in Dubai, are expats. They moved there, they're doing business there, but they're from someplace else. Before I went to Dubai, I don't remember who it was, I really wish I could. They said to me, Caito, Dubai's like, the Vegas of the Middle East. This guy's never been to Vegas, obviously, because it's nothing like it. Don't kid yourself. Canada. Yeah. They have a saying in Canada. They have a lot of sayings in Canada. But the one that I remember is, they like to say when the U.S. sneezes, Canada gets a cold. Okay? But here's the thing that I learned in my many trips to Canada. Their government is very conservative and very consistent with their regulation. So while the rest of the world over the last 5 years went through some significant highs and lows, theirs were just the highs weren't quite as high, the lows weren't quite as low, but there was very resilient entrepreneurs. And they do see, do you guys know, does anybody here know Canadians? You do, right? Huh? They seem to have a drinking song for just about every occasion. You can't get away from it. South Africa, Cape Town, the EO Global University. And it was great. Rian, wherever you are, thank you for sharing your story. Wow. A magical country. To be there in the middle of almost first and almost third worlds aligned, moving forward towards a common vision. Myself and about 20 other entrepreneurs were able to go into a township to see orphans, to see a house that EO had committed to rebuilding for orphans. You see, in South Africa, orphans are raised by mamas. Mamas are women who raise their hands, single parents, and say, I'm going to commit to raising orphans. They raise 8 to 17 by themselves. And they live in homes that are only 2 bedrooms, not even 2 bedrooms, 2 rooms. Some of them have bathrooms. Some of them share community bathrooms. What made that day special was those 20 entrepreneurs committed right at that time, like only EOers do, that they were going to rebuild a second house, and they did. My world was changing. China. China is about relationships, I learned. And if you're going to do business in China, I hope you're ready to sing, because you're probably doing business in a private room singing karaoke. I learned that lesson the hard way in typical EO fashion at 2 a.m. the night before my morning flight back to the States. We have a lot of expats. In fact, most of the members in Shanghai are expats. And some of them have been there for 10 to 15 years on the front end of the emergence of the Chinese economy. The same thing is happening right now with our members in Cambodia and Vietnam. Japan. I really didn't spend any time in Japan, unless you count transferring planes in Tokyo. But let me tell you what I did do. Spent a lot of time with our Japanese members and their translators, because it's the only chapter we have on the planet where they don't speak English. If you're going to do business in Japan, you better be ready to drink. And if you're not a drinker, it's perfectly acceptable to have a designated drinker. And that's the truth. Thailand. India. That's after hours. India. Our members in India, they come from very large family generational businesses. And what amazed me, what I learned about India is that they have a class system that is still very strong. In fact, it impacts who can and cannot be in a membership and a leadership position within EO in India. I also learned that while they have a very traditional family structure over there amongst our members, they're very open to the Western culture of family, and they want to know more about it. I was in Bangalore, and the average speed of traffic is 6.5 kilometers per hour. So I decided to take a taxi around town. And that was like putting my life into my own hands. It was like being in a real live video game version of Frogger. Okay? So if Mark is here from Riot, got a new video game. Malaysia. 15 years ago, Malaysia realized that their manufacturing economy was not sustainable. And they made a commitment to changing from a manufacturing-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. They decided that they were going to build their own Silicon Valley. And they built what's called the Multimedia Super Corridor, a 31-kilometer stretch of land in Kuala Lumpur that goes from the airport, which is in the middle of the jungle, all the way into the city to the base of Petronas Towers. They invited technology companies from all over the world. Their philosophy was, if we build it, they will come. And come they did. There's over 1,000 companies in that corridor right now. And over the last 10 to 15 years, it's created tremendous opportunities for entrepreneurs from all over the region. The Netherlands. We have some passionate, strong-willed members. Tall as well. Tall members in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. In fact, what I learned about them was that their philosophy in life is duty first and self second. Something else interesting I learned in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Everywhere I went in the world, whenever I was hungry, I went to a cafe. In the Netherlands, you go to a cafe to get hungry. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. My world was certainly changing. EO has this unique ability to take this world and make it a little bit smaller, a little bit more connected. We can go into cultures and countries and just see them from the inside out in a way that we never could before. And it's because of that intimacy that I was talking about. I live in California. And coming back to California, I am thinking differently. I am different. I work different. I can't even look at current events or TV or newspapers the same anymore. I've seen too much. And I want to see more. And I want to take my family with me. Living in California is like living in a bubble. Living in Southern California, in Orange County, that bubble gets smaller. All the way down to the point where you get to where I live, Aliso Viejo, and it's pretty small. So small that there's absolutely zero resemblance in Aliso Viejo to what is actually happening in this world. And I have 3 boys that I mentioned a minute ago. Dominic, Vincent, and Nico. If you've seen me speak, you know I affectionately refer to them as the preschool mafia. When I tell you it's a jailbreak every day at my house, you have no idea. And it's going to take every bit of willpower and strength for my wife and I to create good citizens out of those boys. But the big realization through this journey is that that is not enough. Good citizens, that's only going halfway. We need to create global citizens. Boys that truly respect, appreciate, and understand what this world has to offer, so that they can decide for themselves the mark that they want to make with their time here. Maybe they'll be a leader. Maybe they'll be an entrepreneur. Maybe they'll be an alchemist. I hope so. But that is the impact that this journey has had on me. That is the impact of EO, and that is the impact of changing the way you see the world, so the world you see changes. Thank you.